Тоа што ги поврзува сите звезди кои што гостуваат во Астрорум е нивниот раскошен талент, можноста да се занимаваат со повеќе работи во животот и да се успешни во тоа, меѓународно познати личности без разлика дали доаѓаат од оваа земја или од надвор. Ја имам честа сега да разговарам со еден од најстакнатите пијанисти од така наречената помлада генерација во светот, господинот Лука Дебарг, кој што имаше можност да свири со македонската филхармонија. Mr. Debargue, welcome to our show and thank you that you will share your experience with us. I say that you come from younger generation, but when this era stop, when this period stop, you have to be experienced or you have to be young or old. Because you're very successful, your CV is full of successful things, concerts, recordings. And what do you think? Why critics always have to make those categories? Young or successful or old, famous, prominent, and what do you feel about this?
Because it's their job. They need to keep their job. Everyone to keep his job has to prove that it's necessary. So me as a musician, my job is to play. But for a critic, he needs to have something to say. So the critics always find something to say. But of course, these categories are not seriously relevant. I think the only important thing is the quality of the playing and the capacity that an artist has to share emotions. This is the only point, whatever the age of the artist is.
Mm-hmm. And they always mention as a biggest success that you were, let's say, unofficial winner of 15th Čaјkovski competition. What do you think? If this competition were somewhere else, not in Russia, could be your playing more understandable because you have that refined French touch on a high artistical level, but when you play Rachmaninoff, Prokofiev, Čaјkovski in Russia, is this advantage or disadvantage?
I think that for every piece of music, it's very important to try to really enter the world of the score. This is the only thing I'm thinking about, because Russian style, French style doesn't mean really something for me. Of course, there is a huge background culture, Russian culture, huge background of French culture, but for one score, I think it's not the most important thing regarding a score. For example, tonight I played the second Prokofiev concerto, and if I only think about Russia when I play this piece, I cannot explore all the parts of the score. The music is a universal language. And of course, there are many details in these scores that are referring to Russian folk music and some legends, some tales probably that Prokofiev had in his mind when writing it. But I can only guess about this. But my interest is not to guess when I work on a score. My interest is to start from things that I am sure about. when I see a score, and when each score is rather, for me, independent from the others. I mean, you can find, when you develop an interpretation, you can find some connections with other scores after. But when I approach a score for the first time, I prefer to isolate it and to just consider it as an whole, to try to really penetrate as much as possible the score. If some people think that I am really French in that sense, that I have this French touch or something, I can only say, okay, if you think so, but I would not define myself as a French pianist. Of course I am, on the paper I am a French pianist, but I am happy just being a musician and just having the chance to have a job that makes me travel, discover a lot of different cultures and speak a language that everyone in the world can understand, the language of the music.
Is there enough room in the score to put your individual touch and to give another interpretation, because those concerts are very famous. People connect them with Rubinstein, with Richter, with all the pianists from golden era, let's say. So how do you find your own way, own path? It's
a good question. For this also, it's not a priority to find my own individual thing. I never think about this. My main purpose is to be able to communicate as much information, emotional information as possible that is in the score. I am between the score and the audience. So I have the possibility to absorb the score, and when I'm working on it, to transform the notes of the score into communicate values of communication, emotional communication. So it's not about saying something about me, communicating something personal. For me, it's not important. When it's the same, I guess, for actors, for theater or actors of cinema. What we want from an actor is that for him to take his role, and the best actors, you can recognize this is the beloved actor, but he is able to take his role and to make you cry, to make you laugh, being the character of the movie or of the play. And for me, it's the same with being a pianist, is that depending on on what I will play, if I play Mozart, if I play Beethoven, and depending on the piece I am playing, the only goal I want to reach is to really take the role as fully as possible, so the people can really be moved by the music. That's it. I think that performing arts are a very, how to say, probably the best way and the quickest way for people to approach art in general, because they say someone doing something in the present moment, and they are attending to that. So it's good for the people to have someone to watch doing something. But the main thing about the music is, of course, what you put in the ears of the people, what you make, the sounds you create. It's ideally one could be able to close his eyes to listen really to the music of a concert, not having the need to watch the soloist or the orchestra or whoever. Of course, it's very good to see someone that is living the music on the present, but when I'm performing on stage, most of the time I totally forget what I am doing. I forget that I am here, I forget that I am in a concert hall playing with orchestra. I try to enter the sound as much as possible and just live for 1 hour, 2 hours in the sound, in this dimension, in the music making directly, as much as possible. So I don't think about myself.
That's good to hear, because we have to be honest today, to be a star, to be an artist. When we say somebody is an artist, he has to be good on the stage, good manager, good with the media, and do a lot of things. What do you think about that? Do we lost the music in between those big deals with the companies, discographies, or the real thing always find the way?
If you really love the music, you cannot lose. Everything goes fast now. So in the human relationships, you are in a relationship and then you have a breakup very quickly. Everything goes super fast and people just follow their desires, their very quick desire. They go for something and everything. With the music, it's not like this. The music stays. The music is very loyal. It stays with you. And the love you give to the music, music can always give back to you. For me, it's the strongest thing I know. I know from my little experience because I'm still young, very young, but the music helped me already so much. It kept me strong to go through challenges of life because I cannot, generally speaking, I cannot trust the people, you know? And it's not a big drama to say that. It's not a catastrophe because for me, with art, with the music, there are so many, there is so much strength in this that I don't need the trust of the people. I don't need to rely on someone to be sure that this person will wait for me when I will be back or everything, and to give my soul, a part of my soul to someone. No, I don't see why I would do that, because if I put myself entirely in the music, the music is always with me and never lets me alone. Yeah. So for me, all this media, as you say, agencies, all the business side, it's nothing. Of course, it's part of the job, but speaking spiritually, deeply, it's nothing. It's just part of the job, but it doesn't affect anything about the music making. No. If one should ask himself the question if he really believes in what he's doing, if he thinks that all this has an influence on his playing, on his, because it should not have. It could not have. If you really strongly
do what you do, love what you do. I won't say that was much easier in the past to be famous piano player, but I would say it's different. Nowadays, competition is much bigger. It's not just Europe, Asia, a lot of good pianists, but few of them you can recognize them by the style, by the approach. And what do you think? How to manage to be not famous, but
actually
people can recognize you?
My mind is not structured that way. So for me, I never think about competition. I don't think about war between people. For me, it's I avoid this way of thinking. So I will never feel menaced or I have to keep my place, I have to play better. No, we all have our way, our own way of doing something when we really believe in something. I am always interested about the players of nowadays. I listen some things, young pianists, less young pianists, and I am always very, very interested. Of course, when there is a real message, when there is a real direction, a real approach. When it's only, as we call it, competition playing, so just be clean, prepared and everything, I cannot be interested by that. Because considering a competition as an end of a process, no. For me, it can only be a start. The best start that you can imagine, like making the finals of a competition, it can only be, or just preparing for a competition, it's the best start because it's a very serious project. But the main thing is to communicate music and to share music with the people and to try to deal with to try to find a balance between your private life and this stage life. This is the big challenge. But of course there are many good pianists and very, very impressive level of piano playing nowadays. But for me, it has not changed so much. I think.
But you cannot avoid it that it's not important to show your art on the competition as Čajkovski, because after that everybody is interested in you. They invite you. You were part of Verbier festivals, famous festivals.
Of course, it's important, but as I say, as a start, like to prepare something like that, to experience something like that is super important. But to play in order to win, or in order to satisfy, or in order to convince, no. I don't know a single good musician that really plays in order to satisfy, in order to be appreciated by someone, by a jury, or by some critics or everything. No, I think it's a work of interpretation for musicians. It's a work of researching. So you do something and people might find for a moment that, oh, it's not really convincing what he does at this moment. And sometimes they say, oh, it's incredible. But some people will say to me, oh, you are better in Ravel than in Chopin. But for me, I do exactly the same with Chopin and with Ravel. I have my approach with the score, and I worked as seriously with all composers. I don't have really a favorite composer. Of course, there are composers that I like very much, but it's, for me, it's always, I try to give my best for any score I learn. And people then have their own opinion, and they can prefer it or that. It's none of my interest. And what I like to always say when I am asked about my start, my career or something, when people ask me, but aren't you scared to lose this and everything? And I say, you know, if I have less engagements, if I play less in big concert halls, and if people don't invite me anymore, what will happen then? I will stop playing music? I will stop playing the piano? Certainly not. I would have played the piano even if I would not have made the finals of the Čajkovski competition. So I would have made a lot of projects, or also recording projects. I would have maybe, of course, less people would have known me, but I would have been a musician, and I would have.
It's not a crucial thing.
Of course, the main thing is to be a musician and to do. And there are some musicians that are big names and big stars nowadays, but they were not so appreciated during their time. Not to talk about the composers. We should.
So that was my next question. As I understood, you are a composer too. So it's kind of strange for me, I have to admit, that you don't struggle with the ego, because you said that you serve the music, you serve the composer to transmit it, his idea or her idea. So how come? How do you deal with your two persons? It's so opposite to be a composer and to be a pianist.
Not really, I would say. But it's a fantastic question. I'm very glad to have the opportunity. The opportunity to answer to this. It's very clear for me. When I'm playing, when I'm improvising, when I'm composing, I do the same. I don't do it to put myself in front of the music and to put the spotlight on me. So it's not a question of ego. But for me, when I started to play music, I started also to write. I started also to improvise. It went all together. And actually, I was very pleased to find out, when I was reading some things about musicians I love, that they had the same kind of approach, that for them it was very natural to start all things together, like part of the same process. Then when I grew up, I also realized that the 20th century was a big mess about composition, about artistic creation in general. Because it was an explosion of not the romantic aesthetic, but the romantic individualism. So everyone wants to sign a piece, whatever it is. You know, it's the exact contrary.
But not everything is good or
Of course not.
successful.
It's the exact contrary of how people did music before, from the Middle Ages, on how they were building some things or were painting some things. It was mostly workshops of artists working together to make something beautiful. And it was not important for them to sign a piece. Nowadays, everyone wants to put his name on something, even if it's not good.
Labels.
Yes, but for me, of course, I can say I am composer, or I can say yes when I am. Are you a composer? Okay, but it's hard for me to consider myself as a composer. Like I am very young, I need to learn, I am developing my capacities of writing music. But for me, the main point is, after all this mess of 20th century, to just share and live this natural life in music. So I listen to music, I write the music I hear inside of me, I play the music, I improvise the music, and everything is natural.
It's necessity. You cannot keep that explosion inside.
And the music is the music I write. Some people can appreciate it, some people hate it, just because it's mostly simple. It's melodic, it's singing, and it's forms that everyone identifies clearly. And my aim is not to lose the people in my experimentations and everything. So, if
minimalism kind or
no, it's really, I would say, mostly very much inspired by romantic music and early 20th century music, about the harmonic explorations maybe, and
And do you have a melody in
always? Without melody, it's very hard.
A lot of people lost that.
For something else, but me, I'm not interested by that. But what interests me is always to hear better, and to write more. The more I write, the better my hearing of the music is. The more I write, the more I play, the more I listen well. I want to listen. I love so much music that I want to not lose a single detail. When I listen to a little prelude of Bach, there are many ways of listening to this. You can relax. Some people like Bach to relax. Some people, it's meditation for them. They can think about it. But for me, I want to be able to have the sensitivity to really catch any single note from a Bach score and to really receive it, to not lose a single detail. You see? And for me, it doesn't remove anything from the secret and from the mystery of this music. The mystery is still there. It's not because I can feel any single detail that I lose the mystery of the music. For me, it's...
When you're young, you're waiting for, let's say, to be in that perpetuum mobile machine, but when you're into it, how do you find spare time for your inner voice, for composing, reading, doing something else? Is it possible?
This is the challenge. This is the real challenge of this kind of life. To find the balance, the good balance between exercising, practicing, traveling and concert life, and private life. Me, I made the choice to stay single, to have as less friends as possible, but very good ones that are understanding the situation. And me, I can also understand their own situations, and we are sharing this attention to each other. So, and I am happy at the moment of this situation. So I try to have as much time as possible at home without anything special to do, just being at my place with my piano and just listening to music and doing. And for me, it's the best way I could find to live. And I have a reason. For me, the best job I could have, because I'm not, when I'm performing, I'm not doing something different than what I'm doing when I'm home. I'm still in the music.
You're living your life, or
Absolutely.
i.e. music.
Yeah.
And maybe it's childish, but I'll ask about your role models when you're, let's say, old, and when you're gonna say, I'm happy, I reach this composer, this pianist, reach myself or something. Have you ever thought of those things? No. Favorite music composer, contemporary music, or maybe romanticism you mentioned?
No. I think that only a few composers were happy in their life. Most of them were very suffering from love or from starvation or whatever. No, I don't have any examples. I want to be as good as possible as a being, as a human being. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to be to lose the contact with the humankind and to be just closed in my world and to not see anyone. It's very important for me to keep the social contact, Of course, I do it seldom. Most of the time I am alone, and I prefer this. But it's still important to talk to people, to meet people. For me, it's very... because I want my music making to have a human face, not to be
preserved.
Yeah, to be abstract or everything. I want it to be connected to the people, and it's very important for me to still meet people, to be close as possible to the people, to really get the human energy, to not be too far from this. There is a tendency in me to get too much abstract, because it's my world. Mm-hmm. I like to forget that I have a body and just
fly away,
fly with my spirit somewhere. Of course there is a tendency, but I restrain this as much as possible to stay connected with the others, because it's very important. There is also, in the music, there is also a social aspect, that it's a way of communication, and one should never forget that. It's a way of communication. There is no sense at playing or composing or improvising a music that the people won't get somehow. It has absolutely no sense.
It's very interesting, inspiring, very mature conversation with such a young pianist, but I have to end somehow this conversation. So I'll ask you, what is your feeling about the Macedonian Philharmonic Hall, the orchestra, and what about these countries? They're not, let's say, on the first row, what means the Western stages, like, I don't know, Berliner Philharmonic or
I think it's fantastic.
London.
I think that Macedonian people could be proud of this building. It's a fantastic place, I think, to perform. The orchestra, they are wonderful, very warm beings, and expressing a lot and very serious at work. For me, it's a very, very good experience. I'm very happy. Of course, I'm nervous because I play in a few hours, and it's a very difficult piece I play, but it's wonderful. For me, it's really wonderful. It's a great opportunity to be here. Unfortunately, I cannot stay for a long time. I leave tomorrow. I leave this night very early. Should leave at 5 in the morning. But all I saw at the moment from this city, I enjoyed very much. I hope I will come back someday.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.